the most important tool that you will ever own. It's not a hammer. It's not a screwdriver. It's not duct tape. It's not Gorilla Glue. It's a pair of tweezers. Mac Engel, Footwear Star Telegram, Angle Podcast, here on the Sunset Lounge. By the way, it's free. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that before. Before I get into this episode, no guest, by the way, in case you didn't already know that, although I do have a bunch of good ones coming up. This one's more of I'm doing you a solid for all of you people who are pursuing or exploring entertainment options. This episode's more of a for you type of thing, because I care about people, kids especially. Make sure that you know all of the episodes on the Sunset Lounge are free. I may have mentioned that a million other times. Patreon.com/SunsetLoungeDFW. Patreon.com/SunsetLoungeDFW. All shows are free. That includes Shippy and Groobs, The Clubhouse, different show, Clubhouse, Rob, Alex, Don, Pop Culture. Apparently I can't spell the word culture. Sports, movies, wrestling. Free. Beer 30 Sports Clock. Ziggy catching you up on all things football and beer. I do like that combination, though I'm not quite sure how he isn't 7,000 pounds. Al Maximo, seriously, who has a show about beer and isn't like wildly overweight? How do you do that? I recently had 2 beers. And I'm not talking light beers. I think I had Shiner Bock, and I do like Shiner Bock. I had 2 Shiner Bocks, and I didn't want to eat dinner. And that's the killer. I enjoy a Bock beer, and now I can't drink them because I'm on the wrong side of 50. And if you drink 1 beer, now you feel like a bloated donkey. Don't ask me how I came up with the donkey. Al Maximo. Football, soccer, F1. F1 has started, by the way. This is our Spanish-speaking show. And I disappoint myself every time because I did not do well enough in high school Spanish, certainly college Spanish, to understand this show hosted by my 2 friends, Victor Villaba, Carlos Nava. Victor Villaba, he is the Spanish voice of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Mavericks. Didn't know if you know this. They traded Luka Doncic. Who does that? Carlos Nava, hardest working man in the world, ESPN Deportes reporter of National Football League, Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, boxing, and soccer. I'm a little offended there is no mention of the National Hockey League. Sunset Lounge is free. Make sure you go to the free member button. Free member button at the top of the page. Click on it. All shows are free, including Mike Reiner's Your Dark Companion. Mike Reiner has such a good voice. It's incredible. I see these radio guys sometimes, and Mike's one of them. Mike's been in the game for 10,000 years. In fact, some might say he invented the game. And I just marvel at their voice. And Mike's got one of those radio voices. Nice head of hair, too, even though he's older. Another thing to look forward to here on the Sunset Lounge, a promotional deal that we've got with the Frisco Rough Riders. I think they're AA. Minor League Baseball team of the Texas Rangers in Frisco, Texas. Good product. We'll be doing lots of promotions with them with the season starting, including tickets. All right. So something is coming out that got me thinking about a subject that I really like. In fact, I think I liked it more than I even realized. And that is the topic of World War II. I have been, I guess since college. Yes, college. We don't need to talk about when that was. It was a while ago, it was a couple weeks. I became fascinated with World War II. And I know why. I think everybody my age and or any age really who gets interested in war is interested in World War II because it was the first real conflict that was caught on video. You don't see a lot of World War I video. There is no video of obviously the Civil War. Don't think the Revolutionary War was caught on tape. World War II, however, there is an extensive library globally of what happened during that terrible, globally altering period of time that began in 1920-ish, 36, Germany, and then it ended ultimately in 1945. I became hooked on it. And as such, any chance I get, sometimes I will go down rabbit holes to read books, go to World War II sites overseas, or even here in the United States where there's a good museum. Highly recommend the D-Day Museum in New Orleans, by the way. That's a really good one. The Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. is incredible. But this is a subject that's very near and dear to me, and I have watched a ton of World War II movies and war movies in general. Probably World War II more than any other. There's obviously a lot of movies about Vietnam, but really what we've seen in the last, I guess, since about 1990-ish, is how war movies are made in Hollywood and overseas have changed dramatically. We now have the widely accepted anti-hero theme throughout Hollywood and pop culture. And war movies, especially World War II, have been, and I would say that was probably not coincidentally around the time Schindler's List came out, mid-90s, and I went on a date with that movie, actually. Schindler's List, and then obviously Saving Private Ryan. Those were two big game changers in war movies, and specifically World War II movies. Platoon had come out in the 80s, but Vietnam was a different animal. But World War II was sort of that was the popular war because we won it and there was a good guy and a bad guy and all these other sort of traditional story arcs and themes and narratives that exist in Hollywood that applied here, and Hollywood really cashed in. Well, sometime in the 90s and the first part of the 21st century, filmmakers, especially overseas, started to go down rabbit holes and alleyways that went into the darker sides of World War II. So there is a new movie coming out this week that is not a World War II movie, but it's one of those movies that is highly anticipated because it's told in a slightly more realistic tone. The movie is Warfare. One word, Warfare. It's a platoon of Navy SEALs who embark on a mission in Ramadi, Iraq. This was in 2006. And it was directed and written by a man named Ray Mendoza, who was a SEAL. I believe he was a SEAL, and it's based on his experiences in Iraq. And according to early reviews of it, and the hype behind it is that it's told in a way that puts you right there during that terrible time. So as I thought about this, I thought, what other war movies that have come out that I really, really liked? And I'm not talking about, obviously, the popular ones. I've got a list of them here. Patton, starring George C. Scott. That's an amazing film because of George C. Scott about the general during World War II. Platoon, the Oliver Stone Academy Award movie, Academy Award Best Picture film, starring Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe, and a whole bunch of other guys, Johnny Depp, which was loosely based on Oliver Stone's experiences when he served in Vietnam. It's a great movie. Saving Private Ryan, as I mentioned, it's a terrific film. Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan movie that is absolutely phenomenal. I love that one. The HBO series Band of Brothers, The Hurt Locker, based on Iraq. That was an Iraq War film. Won Best Picture, great movie. The Imitation Game, that is in World War II-ish, but there were a lot more themes going on then. The new All Quiet on the Western Front, you can find that on Netflix. That is outstanding. It's pretty true to the book. The book is great, obviously, but that version of All Quiet on the Western Front as a film is outstanding. Schindler's List, obviously, 1917, a World War I movie, the finale of that. It's a movie that's told in real time. If you haven't seen it, the finale, the last 10 minutes of it are just extraordinary. Life is Beautiful, and another Best Picture winner that is about World War II-ish, the Holocaust, and some other obviously awful themes. Those are all of your sort of standard Great War films. And anybody sits there and says that comes up with a list, usually it includes those. I went down a different road and found a whole bunch of other ones that I'm going to recommend to you right now. Now, these are available on multiple streaming platforms, HBO Max. I'm probably like everybody else. I have too many subscriptions and I need to get rid of about half of them because I don't even know what I have. This is HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Netflix, obviously, Hulu, on and on, Apple TV. I have too many of them. God knows I need to get rid of them. Okay. Conspiracy. This came out in 2001. It was an HBO film starring Kenneth Branagh, Colin Firth, and Stanley Tucci. The movie's about the infamous Wannsee Conference. Wannsee, spelled with a W, but it's Wannsee Conference. And this is the terrible time where a bunch of high-ranking Nazis convened at a really big house near Berlin to go over the particulars that was the final solution during the Holocaust. What's the best way, the most convenient way, efficient way that the Nazis could get rid of Jewish people. And it's awful. The movie is very compelling. It's not entirely true. Historians argue by the time these guys got together for the Wannsee Conference, it had already been hashed out and ironed out how they were going to do it. And this was more of a, hey guys, this is what we're doing. Conspiracy, 2001, you can find it on HBO. It's very good. It's not entirely accurate, but close enough. The Zone of Interest. This came out in 2023. This is a German film, and this is an extraordinary movie. It is based on Nazi commander Rudolf Höss, who lived next to Auschwitz. And it's about his life at his home, a very mundane life with his wife and 2 children, even though he lived right next to Auschwitz, which is where he was the commander of. It's an incredible movie because it never goes into Auschwitz. You just see the outside of the wall. So the filmmaker lets your imagination do the trick, all the while you follow the lives of these ordinary Germans in extraordinary times doing absolutely god-awful things and being completely normal about it. Zone of Interest. This is one that most of you, that one was pretty popular. You might have heard that one. This next one I doubt you did. This one is The Heavy Water War. This is a series that was produced by the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation. And I think you can find it on Amazon Prime. This is the true story. This is a really cool story. This is the true story of British intelligence who worked with Norwegian resistance fighters to stop Nazi Germany from developing an atomic bomb with what is called heavy water. Now, this was before Robert Oppenheimer and all of his buddies out in New Mexico developed through uranium the atomic bomb. The Germans were ahead on this, but through a different way, and that involved heavy water. This is really good, and it details how the Brits ultimately sabotaged a plant. I don't know how to say this word. I'm going to try. It's a town in Norway. R-J-U-K-A-N, Norway. Rjukan. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, here's one that came out last year on Apple TV called Masters of Air. It's a series, and it's the true story of American Air Force pilots who completed some of the most dangerous bombing runs out of England over mainland Europe. The aerial sequences alone are worth it. It's a true story. It's based on real guys. And like a lot of these films, at the end, before the credits, the film tells you what happened to this person and that person, and ultimately how their lives turned out. Masters of Air, highly recommend it. This one is World War II-ish, but it's one I recommend highly. One Life, starring Anthony Hopkins. It came out in 2023. Now, like I said, this is war-related-ish. It's the true story of Nicky Winton, N-I-C-K-Y, Nicky Winton, W-I-N-T-O-N, who helped rescue hundreds of predominantly Jewish children before Nazi occupation closed the borders in mainland Europe. Now, 50 years later, this tells the story of Nicky Winton, played brilliantly by Hopkins, who was and how he was reunited with many of the children that he saved in the 1930s. Here's one that is not a World War II movie, but it's a great movie. This is a really great movie, and it's one of those sort of off the radar flicks that for World War II for war movie people, I highly recommend. The Siege at Jadoville. The Siege at Jadoville, highly underrated movie about a very obscure battle that occurred in Africa. This is a movie that came out in 2016, and it's about a NATO peacekeeping force led by an Irish battalion or platoon. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but they had never seen combat. They were there in the Congo as a peacekeeping force, and it was 150 Irishmen, none of them whom had seen combat. The Irish commander had never seen combat. His soldiers had never seen combat, and then they get stuck at an outpost under siege, facing 3,000 Congolese troops led by French and Belgian mercenaries who were working for mining corporations. The Siege at Jadoville, great movie. True story, pretty accurate. At the very end, they do some interviews with some of the actual men who served during that time. This next one's pretty good. I really enjoyed this one, The Forgotten Battle. This is a movie that was released in 2020, and it follows a German soldier, a British glider pilot, that's an incredible scene, and a Dutch resistance fighter, and how all three of their paths cross in the final year of World War II. It's a Dutch film. It's on Netflix. It's very good, especially the ending, The Forgotten Battle. This next one is another true story, Operation Mincemeat. Came out in 2021, and it stars the hunky Colin Firth. This is the true story of the British deception to trick the Nazis into believing that the Allied forces were attacking Greece instead of Sicily. It's a true story, and it involved planting a corpse with false documents on the Spanish coast, which eventually German soldiers found. Operation Mincemeat. Now here's one that's one of my favorites. And I don't know how I found this one, but this one is great. The Bombardment. This came out in 2021, and it chronicles the lives of Copenhagen residents when they collide with a bombing mission that accidentally targets a school full of children. This was a true story. The Allies had targeted a particular building thinking that Nazis were developing either a bomb or some kind of weapon there, and that's why they had targeted, and they hit the wrong target. This is an incredible movie. And it's pretty hard to watch. The last 30 minutes are incredible, and it gives you an idea of how chaotic sometimes these bombing missions actually were. The Bombardment. Ordinary Men. This is a documentary. Now, I only list 2 documentaries here because there's like 8 million World War II documentaries. This is a good one, and it's narrated by Brian Cox. This is about an hour, and it tells the true story of ordinary German citizens who were pressed into active duty, and part of their duty and responsibilities were to complete the Holocaust, and just how casual so many of them were about it. Ordinary Men. Munich, The Edge of War. This is a fictional movie. It's very believable, but it's fictional. Came out in 2021, and it's set in 1938 when Hitler was right on the edge of invading and occupying Czechoslovakia. And at the time, the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, was doing what he could to try to prevent more bloodshed. Now, his decisions eventually appeared to be conciliatory as written by his successor, Winston Churchill. But as a film, it tells that part of a very, very important part of the evolution of the Second World War. Now, the fictional part, this deals with a British civil servant and a German diplomat who are classmates, and they traveled to Munich to help facilitate peace. Munich, The Edge of War. It's pretty good. It's not great, it's pretty good. This next one's great. Number 24. This is a Norwegian film that came out last year, and it went to the top of the Netflix rankings because people just found it. This is a true story, and it's based on the life of Norwegian hero Gunnar Sonsteby. I think I pronounced that right. Gunnar, Gunnar, Sonsteby, Sonsteby. It's a great movie, and it's told from the point of view that this man is in his later years, and he's talking to a group of school children about his life. So it goes back and forth, and there's one particular student who presses him about what he did, because what he did involved killing people in the name of resistance. Number 24. It's a great movie. Another one that's in Norwegian. I don't know how I found so many Norwegian films, but I did. Narvik. 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 So this came out in 2022. And the reason why I'm putting the years on this is because a lot of these production qualities went up significantly overseas in the last 10 to 15 years as technology became basically less expensive. So this came out in 2022, and this is the real story about the town of Narvik in northern Norway. It had iron ore, which Hitler wanted and the German war machine needed. So they invaded. Narvik and its citizens were the first example of a town and a community that repelled and defeated a German attack at the time. So that was a big deal. Now, needless to say, the Germans came back and eventually got what they wanted. But this was the first recorded instance of Hitler's invading army losing Narvik. The next movie is fiction, Blood and Gold. It's a German movie that came out in 2021, and this is at the end of World War II, and it's about a German army soldier who's a deserter, and a young woman who has a little brother who I believe is autistic, and they are drawn into this big bloody battle in this small village where there is hidden gold. It's pretty good. It's a little cartoonish, but it's pretty good. Blood and Gold. Next movie is a true story, and it's the story itself is incredible. The movie itself is hard to watch. It is titled Pilecki's Report. Pileckis, Pilecki's Report. This is a Polish film, and came out in 2021, and it tells the real-life story of Witold Pilecki, who, before the second part of his life, made a name for himself because he infiltrated Auschwitz, and then eventually he escaped. Now that sounds absolutely crazy, and it was, but at the time, Polish people were aware of what was going on in Auschwitz, and they were more aware that nobody knew about it. So he snuck his way in, got the hell kicked out of him, snuck out, and then made every attempt to tell the world what was going on there. Now, after the war ended, now that included cooperating with the Polish government, which was being based out of London. So then the war ends, and the Soviet Union occupies Poland. And Pilecki gets in a lot of trouble because he was cooperating with the old government, the government that was kicked out by the Soviets. So even this guy should be a hero, he is treated like a traitor. The story is fascinating. The movie is brutal. There are torture scenes in it that are terrible. It's just awful what happened to this poor guy, who was eventually recognized and celebrated for what he did, obviously posthumously, in the 21st century. I'd recommend more, find a podcast, find a book about it. His name is Witold, spelled with a W, Witold Pilecki. The movie is a really hard watch. Another movie that is as difficult to watch, if not more so, is a Belgian movie titled Will. W-I-L-L. It's a person's name. So this one came out in 2023, and it does explore a really fascinating element that not a lot of films or books really get into, or at least popular ones. Citizens in these occupied countries who had no choice but to participate in the policies and the procedures and the enforcements of rules and regulations by their occupiers. So this tells the story of a man who is a police officer during Nazi occupation in Belgium, Antwerp. And it explores that idea of this guy's carrying out law enforcement for things that he really doesn't believe in, merely as a matter of survival. Okay, that's enough. The movie is brutal. I mean, just brutal. It's titled Will. The concept, the idea of it is so compelling, but the movie itself is just brutal to watch. 1944. This is a movie that I would probably give higher marks to, but the English dubbing, rather than subtitles, is awful. I have found that a lot of these movies on Amazon Prime are available, but they don't have them in subtitles. And I'm not trying to be some haughty nerd about it, like, if it's not subtitled, it's no good. No, it's more about the subtitle. The dubbing is terrible. And in this case, it was. The movie is 1944. It's Estonian. And this tells a very obscure story about Estonian troops who were caught in the middle of two armies. Estonia is obviously a tiny country. And what people forget is that they weren't fighting for the Soviets. They were fighting for the Germans against the Soviets, even though the Soviets were coming on their way and eventually would grab them all and be the occupying country. The movie's really slow, even though the idea of it is fascinating, and the dubbing is terrible. Next one is really good. The Resistance Banker. This came out in 2018, and this is the true story of a Dutch banker named Walraven van Hal, who helped finance the Dutch resistance during Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. This is a guy who was eventually recognized for heroism, obviously posthumously. And I think there's a statue or some kind of monument for Van Hal. The Resistance Banker, this is a film, I believe it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. It's a great movie, The Resistance Banker. April 9. This one's really obscure. The movie was released in 2015, and it's about the day the German army invaded Denmark, April 9, 1940. So it's about these Danish soldiers who are rallying the troops, all in the effort to stop or delay the German army's advance. And these guys were woefully outmanned and under-equipped. They rode bicycles against the German army that had tanks. April 9. T-34, this is a Russian World War II movie it's basically like a summer blockbuster in Moscow. Apparently it was a huge hit in Russia. It's about a group of Soviet soldiers who had been captured, and then they got out, and then they steal back a T-34, and then they go, which is a tank, it was a Russian tank, and then they go on to beat some really bad Nazis. The acting in this is really good, and some of the special effects in it are pretty good, but it's kind of silly. But it's interesting to see what kind of movie plays big in Russia about World War II. T-34. Okay, so the last couple ones I have here are a little bit older, but favorites. Stalingrad. Now, this is a movie that came out in 1993. And for any World War II buff, this is one of the ones I recommend the most because it was told from the German perspective. It is an anti-war film, an anti-World War II film told from the German perspective. And it's about the battle that really turned the war as more than anything else. Like once the German army lost at Stalingrad. Their days were basically numbered. Now, it lasted a couple more years. But the movie is about German soldiers who are transferred to the Eastern Front and are stuck in what eventually became hell on earth, and that is Stalingrad. It's a great movie. This next one is a documentary. This one's is a fascinating watch, even if some of it makes you sick. Final Account. This is an amazing film made by a man named Luke Holland, who interviewed about 300 German senior citizens who gave their account what it was like living in Nazi-occupied Germany before, during, and after the Second World War, and specifically what they did know about the Holocaust. Unfortunately, Mr. Holland died before the movie was done, but the movie is so chilling because some of the interviews of these German senior citizens are so harrowing because some of them are totally unrepentant and completely unapologetic about the policies that were a part of the Holocaust, while some of the other people lived the rest of their lives with guilt. And I realize I probably forgot some other ones in there. Das Boot is a German submarine film that's outstanding. Enemy at the Gates, starring Jude Law, is a really good one. It's a true story about a Russian sniper, Vasily Zaitsev. That's a great story. It's good. It's good. It's pretty accurate, but it's pretty good. It's also really good. Okay, this is the one I always recommend the most. Downfall. It's a German film, came out in 2004, and it's about Hitler's last days living in the bunker, where he ultimately took his life. The man who played Hitler looked and sounded exactly like what we've seen on those World War II, black and white reels. And apparently the man's name was Bruno Ganz. He was Swiss, and he's no longer with us, but apparently to prepare for the role, he did not rely on the famous, Hitler rallies where he's sitting there and giving these impassioned speeches and all that. Instead, he found an interview where Hitler gave to some random radio or television station, no, obviously it wouldn't be television, random radio station in Germany, and how Hitler really sounded when he wasn't on camera and on stage was totally different. And that's what Ganz used to create an impression of him for the film. The movie is outstanding because it's about as close to the truth as any of those things could get, because it was based on interviews and books and movies, documentary about the people who were there with Hitler in the bunker in those last 2 weeks. Those are my favorite World War II films. I totally realize, even though I've talked for half an hour, this list is incomplete. I get it. There's other ones out there. If you have any suggestions, any recommendations, please email them to me, tangle@startelegram.com, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Instagram. I am totally down for any good war movie recommendation. So please, I have helped you. Now it is your turn to help me.
This is a Stolen Water Media production.